Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity news for middle market companies, their investors, and executive teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Monday, September 8th, 2025. Fall is around the corner. I can feel it. Football is back on our TVs, and we're going to take a look today at how a CISA advisory puts an eye towards how vulnerabilities come to life, but not only come to life, then are leveraged by attackers to gain a foothold all the way through to data exfiltration and beyond. And it stems from an interesting source. So I think it's worth discussing here, both in the specifics and then in general. Last week, what we're talking about is a new addition to the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, here in the US, their known exploited vulnerabilities list, or KEV list. The vulnerability is found in a platform called SiteCore, and it includes their managed cloud solution, where the software, quote, contains a deserialization of untrusted data vulnerability involving the use of default machine keys. This flaw allows attackers to exploit exposed ASP.NET machine keys to achieve remote code execution. Very technical explanation. They've given executive agencies until September 25th to either apply mitigations per vendor instructions or discontinue use of the product if mitigations are unavailable. But fortunately, there is strong guidance already being provided by the vendor on how to mitigate this threat, which hinges around these exploited ASP.NET machine keys. Media coverage indicates that attacks like this have been seen in the wild since at least February of this year, and the core of this attack hinges on attackers being able to leverage a known value for this machine key that they can pass and then have the server execute malicious code remotely, because it does not know if that's coming from the user or from the trusted side, because the machine key is being presented. So, known as a view state deserialization vulnerability, view state being the function that is being exploited here, it is both clever and a little bit face-palmy at the same time. There is a full and quite technical write-up of this attack path available from the Mandiant team, and I've linked through to that below. In short, when attackers know the machine key, they can gain a foothold and then walk through a series of additional steps to enumerate running processes, services, users' accounts, get TCP/IP configurations from the machine, look at active network connections on the server, ultimately pivoting that to other machines, other accounts, and then on to data exfiltration and beyond. But how do they know the machine key? I think that's a good question. And in the case of this SiteCore vulnerability, the attackers are correctly guessing it because of the sheer number of companies who used the machine key value shown in the documentation as they built and deployed the server for these tools. Who would have thought that including an example key was going to lead to such a vulnerable position? And really, I think it's not an issue with the software itself, but with the configuration and the fact that the people responsible for managing the environment in which the software runs were just too literal in their following of the instructions. I've found myself lately saying that every configuration is a misconfiguration opportunity, and I think this example slots right into that theme. If we look at the broader defensive landscape that we talk about nearly every week here on this show, I'm really struggling to think about how we would expect this company to avoid this sort of risk or mitigate it. One way, of course, would be to leave the machine key value out of the instructions, instead indicating to users how to set up a unique machine key on their own infrastructure, whether it's on-prem, colo, hosted in the cloud, in Azure, whatever, which ironically is exactly what they've had to do in the guidance they provided for mitigating this risk. But as with most things in security, this comes with a trade-off. Everything in security is a trade-off, and in this case it would add extra steps and friction for customers deploying the tool, which sales and product teams the world over, for obvious reasons, are not fans of. Plus, if you put in the templated machine key, the installation would technically work, just not very securely, as we're learning. But beyond that, there's really this kind of traditional set of baseline responsibilities still in play for anyone running a public-facing web server in their environment. I'm talking about things that will deter, detect, and disrupt this type of malicious activity, such as deploying the server in a DMZ, limiting lateral movement with additional segmentation or access control lists, deploying the server, running the roles with least privilege, running a modern EDR solution with 24/7 monitoring and alerting, being able to capture both server and network logs in a way that you can then threat hunt if you think you might have been impacted, and others. Shared responsibility is not just a cloud thing. It does extend, in this case, to the endpoints, and overall, you may have given the threat actors a foothold by following the instructions of this particular software product when you deployed it, but whatever else those attackers do within your systems really is on you here. So please stay sharp out there, defenders. Like so many other things in life, it is those basics applied consistently over time, every time, that will make the difference between being well defended or being breached. From a fundraising perspective, announcements are picking up as we head into the sprint towards year end. We saw $9.3 billion in newly committed capital in the last week, led by Great Hill Partners, who put up $7 billion for their 9th flagship PE fund. We've already seen that much funding announced just today for the next week, so we will get there when we get there one Monday from now, and I would expect things to pick up with a purpose as we move through September. A reminder that you can find links to all the articles that we covered in the comments section below. You can find back issues and written transcripts of these videos at intentionalcyber.com, and we will see you next week for another edition of the Intentional Brief.